I often drove by a former home in Castlepollard in my own county, ignorantly, never really thinking deeply enough of the history associated with buildings like this. Mother and baby homes were large, prominent places, like with industrial schools, Magdalen laundries and mental institutions. They were where Ireland hid her unwanted in plain sight. What could not be seen, however, behind those walls was the hurt, the humiliation, the abuse inflicted on so many. Inside those institutions, those experiences, while not universal, were definitely widespread. What happened once the report of the Commission was leaked and then published was partly a continuation of that hurt. In plain sight and in a considered act of contempt, the report was leaked to one media outlet before it was shared with the survivors. This was wrong, and the person responsible should be identified and sanctioned. And then, when it was shared with survivors, it was provided electronically only. Again, this was wrong, and I do not accept a hard copy could not have been provided to each survivor. I understand that there is an effort to do so now. There was a conspiracy involving at least one person in leaking the report. There was none in the manner in which it was shared. Very simply, official Ireland, with a thoughtlessness that was inadvertently cruel, treated just as another business document and proceeded on business as usual basis. For those who survived those institutions and for those who died in them, the Commission's report was not business as usual. It was the story of their life and of their death. On my own behalf, I apologise to them for the events of the past 10 days. I share their anger and their distress. Survivors deserve better from us in government. Politicians are not an annex to official Ireland. Our vocation is to lead by challenging consensus and doing things differently and better. On this occasion we failed, and that's unacceptable. It's an irony, having historically established a consensus that shuttered people by their tens of thousands, abandoned at their most vulnerable, we would reenact by design and default those same attitudes today. Much discussion over the past week has been about where blame lies. Unfortunately, the role and the responsibility of individual families in this dark part of our social history cannot be wished away. The role of the fathers, the men who fathered their children, cannot be wished away. I will leave to historians the complex, circular conversation about where, between the prevailing popular culture, the unjustified power of the Catholic Church, and the political responsibility, the ultimate cause lay. The truth I want to speak about today is the responsibility of the state, on behalf of all the people, to step forward now. I am certain responsibility for what happens next lies with us in government, with those elected to this Dáil, and with our leaders in the Church. The concern in government, and indeed all members of the Oireachtas, must be about what we do next, about how quickly we can deliver on the comprehensive range of supports identified by the Commission and how sensitively and appropriately we can do so. Countless apologies from men across this House may run shallow in the ears of the survivors, but I must also add my voice to it also, and I too am sorry. For our part, as members of the Irish Government, it is our duty to make life better for survivors. That can only be based on a real relationship of trust and respect. This respect begins by truly listening to our survivors. We have a duty as government to explain in detail how will we advance the rights of survivors to their own information. I'm delighted Minister O'Gorman, whose sincerity certainly is not in question, has confirmed that this is now possible, and it must be immediately advanced. In parallel, deep thought and appropriate resources must be provided for facilitating contact between children from their homes and their parents. Survivors must have access to their testimony to the Commission. An appropriate forum should be provided for those who wish to put on record their dissatisfaction with the Commission's report. Mothers in the homes must have the access to their files, and a system of compensation must be brought forward quickly. Irish history has long been his story. Women were and remain completely absent from all decision-making roles in the Catholic Church. They were almost as absent from the deliberations of the state. As a practising Catholic, I'm deeply ashamed that such a system could exist, let alone be inflicted on the vulnerable in the name of mercy. I say today, not in my name, not in the name of my neighbours who I meet at Mass, not in the name of the priests and nuns, now old and few, who have and continue to serve faithfully and compassionately. We live in a society where half our population still face pay discrepancies, who face difficulty in accessing healthcare, access to work, access to childcare, who are considered as token candidates on a ballot paper, who face a litany of targeted gender-based abuse on social media, who are not part of the decision-making process on areas that have a direct impact on their lives, who are not fully part of the decision-making process, full stop. I genuinely believe our apologies today are futile unless we learn from these mistakes. The time for words have seriously passed, and it's time for action. Unless equality is truly achieved and the rights of women, men and children are respected equally, we will have failed. Unless we have equality in our governance, in the boardroom and in our institutions of faith, we are not truly sorry. I know I cannot speak for the Church here today, but I truly believe the time has come for the Church to recognise women as equals. The report, welcome and flawed in some respects, does commit to a comprehensive range of supports. But so too had previous reports, which remain at best partially implemented. There is a justified sense by some little will change. Our task in this government is to realise this and to act on it, because things can change, and it is our job to make sure that they do.
Thank you, Minister Troy.